I want to tell you something that will sound impossible. I attended my own funeral. I stood in the back of a church filled with flowers and candles and people dressed in black, people who loved me, people who thought they had lost me, and I watched my husband of 6 years get down on one knee in front of my sister at my funeral, while my name was still on the program. But before I tell you what happened in that church, I need to tell you how I got there. 3 weeks before my funeral, I was in a car accident on Route 9 heading home from work. It was a Wednesday, raining, the kind of persistent gray drizzle that makes everything look slightly unreal. I remember the headlights, coming fast from the wrong lane. I remember thinking, very clearly, very calmly, this is going to be bad. And then, nothing. I woke up in a hospital room I didn't recognize. No family, no flowers, no get-well cards taped to the window. Just machines, and a nurse named Patricia who looked at me like she was seeing something that wasn't supposed to happen. "You're awake," she said, like it was a question. "What happened?" I asked. My voice came out wrong, thin, scraped. "You were in an accident," she said carefully. "You've been unconscious for 11 days. 11 days. I had lost 11 days of my life completely." "My husband," I said. "Does he know I'm here? Has he been coming?" Patricia looked at the door, then back at me. That pause. I have replayed it 1,000 times since, the way her face arranged itself into something professional and neutral, hiding whatever her first instinct was. "I'll get the doctor," she said. The doctor came. Dr. Okafor. Calm, precise, kind in the way doctors are kind when they're about to say something difficult. He told me the accident had been severe, head trauma, multiple fractures. I had been in a medically induced coma for the first 4 days, then simply unconscious. "Your identification," he said slowly, "was not recovered at the scene. And the other vehicle, the driver reported the accident but gave an incorrect description of what happened." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said, "that you were brought in as an unidentified female, Jane Doe. We had no way to contact your family." Jane Doe. For 11 days, I had been nobody. "So my husband doesn't know I'm here," I said. "We had no way to notify anyone," Dr. Okafor confirmed. "I'm so sorry." I closed my eyes. He must be devastated, I thought. He must be out of his mind with worry. I asked Patricia for my phone. It had been recovered with my personal effects, cracked screen, battery dead. When it finally charged enough to turn on, I had 147 missed calls. From my mother, my friends, my coworker Dana. Not one, not a single one from my husband, James. I told myself there was an explanation. James didn't have his phone. He was out searching for me. He had gone to the police, the hospitals. He just hadn't reached this hospital yet. There was an explanation. I scrolled through my messages. My mother, "Emily, where are you? We can't find you. Please call me." Dana from work, "James told us about the accident. We're all praying." I stopped. Read that again. James told us about the accident. James knew. He had known about the accident. He had told people. He had informed my workplace. And he had not called me once, had not come to a single hospital, had not, as far as anyone seemed to know, looked for me at all. I called my mother first. She answered on the first ring, and the sound she made when she heard my voice, that sound is something I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Raw, broken, like a person who has been holding grief so tightly that when it releases, the whole body goes with it. "Emily," she said, just my name, over and over. When she could speak properly, she told me they had found a body, a woman, same approximate age, same hair color, recovered from a river 2 miles from the accident site 3 days after the crash. The identification had been, she paused here, complicated. There had been significant damage. James had been asked to confirm. James had confirmed. He had looked at a body that was not me, and he had said it was. I need you to sit with that for a moment. Because I had to. My husband had identified a stranger's body as mine. Maybe it was a mistake, a trauma response, the shock of grief making him see what he feared. Maybe. But the calls he never made told a different story. The 147 missed calls with his number nowhere among them told a different story. And what my mother said next, quietly, carefully, like she was choosing every word, told the clearest story of all. "Emily, the funeral is tomorrow." "I know, Mom," I said. "James he hasn't been alone through this. Your sister has been with him. Every day. She's been handling everything." My sister, Claire, 3 years younger, bright, magnetic, the kind of woman who walked into rooms and rearranged them without trying. The sister I had always been closest to. "Of course she has," I said. "She loved me." My mother was quiet for too long. "Mom? There's something you need to see for yourself," she finally said. "Come to the funeral, Emily. Don't call ahead. Don't tell James. Just come." "Why?" She didn't answer that. "Just come," she said again, "and stay in the back." I discharged myself from the hospital the next morning, against medical advice. Signed the forms with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Patricia, my nurse, helped me find clothes, a dark coat from the Lost and Found. She didn't ask questions. She just looked at my face and understood that wherever I was going, I needed to go. The church was 40 minutes from the hospital. My mother had texted me the address as if I didn't already know it. St. Michael's, where James and I had gotten married 6 years ago. Same church. I almost couldn't walk through the door. I stood outside for 3 minutes, breathing. In through my nose, out through my mouth. You need to see this, I told myself. Whatever it is, you need to see it. I slipped in through the side entrance, found a position near the back, half hidden behind a pillar, dark coat pulled close. The church was full. My photograph was on a stand at the front, a picture from our vacation in Portugal 2 years ago. I'm laughing at something James said. I look completely happy. I was completely happy. I scanned the front pews. My mother, my aunts, Dana and the girls from work, James's parents, his mother crying, his father stoic, and James, sitting in the front row, with Claire beside him, her hand over his. That's grief, I told myself. That's just grief. They're both losing someone they love. The service began. The pastor spoke. A friend gave a reading. My coworker Dana said something that made half the church cry and the other half laugh. She knew me well. I pressed my back against the pillar, and I listened to people describe the woman they thought was gone. I'm here, I thought. I'm right here. And then the service ended. People began to move, to embrace, to drift toward the reception hall, and James stood up. He turned to Claire, he took both of her hands, and he said something to her, quietly, privately, clearly not meant for anyone around them. But I was watching. I saw his lips. I saw him reach into his jacket pocket. I saw the small box. Claire's hands went to her mouth. She nodded. He slid the ring onto her finger. At my funeral, while my photograph smiled down from the front of the church, while people who loved me stood 20 feet away, wiping tears for a woman who was standing in the back row, completely alive, watching her husband replace her with her own sister before she was even buried. I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. I felt something move through me, cold, clarifying, absolute. Not grief. Purpose. I walked to the front of the church, slowly, deliberately. The first person to see me was James's mother. She made a sound I cannot describe, somewhere between a gasp and a prayer, and grabbed her husband's arm. Then more people turned, and the room went completely, utterly silent. James saw me last. He was still holding Claire's hand. He turned because the silence told him to, and when he saw me, he went pale. Not the pale of shock or relief or joy, the pale of a man whose plan has just collapsed in front of every person who matters to him. Claire dropped his hand. She took one step back, then another. Her face was doing something complicated, guilt and shock fighting for the same expression. I walked until I was standing in front of both of them. I looked at James first. I took my time, let him feel every second of it. I identified my body, I said, quietly, calmly. You told them it was me. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. You never called, I said. Not once. Not a single call to a single hospital, because you didn't want to find me. Emily, you didn't want to find me, I said again, because you already had what you wanted. I looked at Claire. She was crying now. How long? I asked her. She shook her head. Claire, how long? 2 years, she whispered. 2 years, while I was in the same house, the same bed, the same life. For 2 years, my husband and my sister had been building something in the space I couldn't see. I didn't cry. Not there, not in front of them. I turned to face the room, to the people standing frozen in the pews, holding their programs with my face on the cover. I'm alive, I said simply. I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks, alone. I let that land. I thought you should all know. And then I walked out of the church. The legal proceedings took 8 months. Fraud, false identification of remains, a civil case that my attorney described as one of the most clear-cut she had ever seen. James lost everything, the house, the accounts, the reputation he had spent years carefully building. Claire and I have not spoken since that day. I don't know if we ever will. People ask me what it felt like walking into that church, and I tell them the truth. It felt like being born twice. The first time, I came into the world with nothing, no choice, no voice, no power. The second time, I walked into a church full of people who had already buried me, and I refused to stay dead. That, I tell them, is the most alive I have ever felt. I kept my name, I kept my story, and I walked out of that church the same way I have walked through everything since, on my own 2 feet, completely, undeniably alive.